There's been a lot of speculation as to what the Gamergate hashtag on Twitter was really about. It seemed to have been started by Adam Baldwin, or whoever, and has been seized upon by a lot of right-wingers who normally make fun of video game players, but were suddenly on their side when it suited them. But regardless of that, and regardless of the heaps of horrible abuse that's been attached to that hashtag, I'm going to give a lot of people the benefit of a lot of doubt and say that it really was all about, just for the purposes of this video, say it was all about journalistic ethics, the ethics of the games media, and trying to stem the tide of corruption in games media. I said I was going to wait a long while before discussing that, because you know what? For as much as people have tried to compare my previous Jimquisitions to this situation and say, why aren't you repeating yourself and doing the same videos over and over again for this one? This has been a uniquely messy situation, has it not? I mean, it wouldn't have become this big international outrage if it wasn't. So if you seem to think this is exactly the same as all that stuff, you're fooling yourself. You're Captain Wacky Pants. But regardless, I am discussing it sooner than I'd intended because, well, it seemed like there was no way you couldn't. So that's what we're doing. And again, if this is really all about ethics in journalism and all that kind of stuff, giving people the benefit of the doubt. So let's have that discussion, and let's make it a discussion, okay? There's been a lot of talk over the past few weeks of corruption in the video game media industry. Games journalists are corrupt, people say. People who critique video games are corrupt, the people say. I'd just like to announce that I feel that's ridiculous. There's no conspiracy. We're not trying to control you. We're not trying to censor the media. We don't run things. We're not pulling strings. That's crazy talk. You know what else is crazy? The delicious taste of Mountain Dew and Doritos. Hell, you'd have to be nuts to not want to crunch into that delicious sodary taste. Bubbles, lovely, obey. Okay, so let's cut to the chase. Games journalists, for want of a better term, can be way too pally with the game industry side of things. Between the fact that a lot of critics and reporters go on to quit their jobs and become games PR reps, and the industry parties at events like E3, and the general fact that a lot of like-minded people who will naturally get along are bound to become very friendly, there's an air of chumminess between media and developers that I believe can cloud judgment and can lead to a circling of the wagons. Now, unlike some, I do not think there's a really big conspiracy going on. I don't think the people involved are capable of it, and I don't think the people involved could shut up about it if it was happening. However, I do think games media can be very protective of the games industry because it's full of folks they like, people are people, and also because they're often a bit starstruck by talented folks they look up to. I say that because I remember that. I remember the feeling of, oh my god, Ken Levine read my review, oh my god, this guy made a game I like, and now we have banter. I remember that starry-eyed delight before it was all worn down by my increasing bitterness. Now, as I said back when we talked about YouTubers doing paid videos for companies like Microsoft, I don't think it's inherently a problem, provided the readers are fully armed with the details. See, I don't believe simply being friendly with folks is enough to truly affect coverage with most honest critics. I knew a guy who worked hard on the rubbish MMORPG, for example, before tearing it apart, and I was pretty publicly pally with Mikey Newman and used to work with Anthony Birch from Gearbox, and we all know what I think of Colonial Marines, and I don't talk to Mikey no more. But there is always potential for a conflict of interest, and I feel that so long as the audience knows it's there, they can make an informed decision. I said that about YouTubers, and the same applies to more traditional media. But some distance will always be good. I don't do E3 or publisher-paid travel or review events or previews anymore, not since the last big kerfuffle, and I'd love for more critics to do the same because most of that stuff's a racket. And I'd like to see more reform that focuses
focuses on disclosure, if only for the sake that being more open and less aloof will help stop a lot of conspiracy theory. With journos sometimes gleefully dropping mysterious and vague sentiments on Twitter, like we saw before the PS4 came out, it makes a lot of them look way more connected and in the know than they actually are. There's this air of silly mystery surrounding games media that makes it look conspiratorial and shady, when the truth is, all of us, be as critic, reporter, YouTuber, whatever, we're all just gamers. Yes, gamers, who got fucking lucky and have some talent required to maintain an audience. The us versus them adversarial mentality that's been brewing between journalists and the audience for years, not just recently, has been a bit ludicrous, and I've been part of it before, I'll admit that. It's quick to write off gamers as hysterical sometimes, it's easy to do that sometimes, to focus on Dante having black hair in DMC and not field more legitimate complaints about frame rate and other things that Devil May Cry fans might have. I'm guilty on that count. Likewise though, there is a lot of hysteria among the community that has a sad tendency to drown out legitimacy. Sonic's legs are too long. So on one side of the fence, we have a gaming media that can be overly dismissive of its audience, and an audience with enough people in it being crazy to make that dismissal way too easy. Which brings me to a point that is, no matter how much you may hate it, unavoidable in the current climate. Everything I've said so far is aimed at rational and good folks who genuinely do just want to see a better standard of game reporting. But be aware that the amount of harassment and abuse that circled this debate is absolutely contemptible and has only served to totally undermine and discredit the notion that this is all about ethics. When good writers, freelancers who are totally outside the PR spin and hobnobbery of most traditional media are driven out of the industry, we all fucking lose. Jen Frank, who willingly disclosed her potential bias, Matty Bryce, who was never afraid to tell other games media people that they were fucking bullshit. Driving unique voices out of this industry is the opposite of what gamers ought to be doing, and the fact that so many of them have been women is not a good fucking sign at all. And if you're part of the Gamergate movement and you genuinely care about ethics and inclusivity and other decent issues, you should be condemning the venom that's co-opting your cause rather than cling to a not all gamers argument. I realise this video inadequately discusses all the hundreds of things going on with Gamergate. There's more I want to say, but I get 10 minutes every Monday and I'm doing my best to focus on what I think actually matters in all of this. I leave you with what I posted on NeoGAF this past week in a thread asking what results we might like to see coming off the back of this more than 3-week long fucking disaster. I am hoping that a lot of poisoned blood is being let out, with much of the anger and outrage going back and forth between parties. I'd also love harassment to stop. People need to just stop with that. We can disagree and have a discussion, or we can fling shit at the walls. One leads to resolution, or at least a stimulating debate. One just smells of poo. A lot of the reason I've been hesitant to touch any of these issues lately is because I don't want something I say to lead to the harm of others. I've often seen things I agree with on Twitter over the years, and I don't retweet them anymore because it sometimes leads to further harassment of the people saying the stuff, and that just sucks. It sucks bad. And I won't say it's a purely gamer issue. It's an issue with the internet and its often dehumanizing effects, and I wish we could all remember that everyone's human. Going hand in hand with that, I'd like games media to be more open to criticism and open in general. Peel back some of the unnecessary mystery that makes the business look more sexy and conspiratorial than it actually is. The trouble is, we've got this awful feedback loop going on now. Harassment doesn't deserve an intellectual engagement, but some people get so frustrated by dismissal, they get nasty, and the nastiness only leads to further dismissal, and then we end up in this circular chicken-egg situation. More disclosure is important. I'm not against friendships within the industry. It's natural. I have them. I don't hide them. I actually just consulted with The Escapist on a new overhaul to its ethics policy, and it discusses some of this. I think they're going to go about things the right way. Games bloggers, writers, whatevers should be open with their audience, and that can be tough because of the aforementioned nastiness, but it can be done. I try to do it myself, and I've managed to do it with minimal hair tearing. Overall, what I really want, what I've always wanted: reason, rationality, and believable expectations. There shouldn't be an us versus them. We could all make these discussions so valuable if we tried. You cannot be 100% objective, but you can be honest and open. You can't be 100% okay with everything you read online, but you can express your not okayness without trying to ruin a life. And we can't be 100% perfect, but we cannot be dickheads.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking of a funny joke. The idea that we're not corrupt and trying to control your minds via games blogs. That's a funny joke. Ha ha ha. We're definitely not doing it, thank God for me.